Bong bong. What's going on, family? What's going on, people? It's yours truly, Tigo, the mind of Bizzle, and we are back on spiritual life hacks. And I got somebody on here that if you're not familiar with them, you definitely need to get familiar with them. You know, my man Docs, Brick City Buddha himself. How are you feeling today, brother?
Like I was just saying, I'm still breathing. I got through the day and I ain't hear no tragic news or nothing like that. So
A blessing.
all is well right now, bro. And even if I did, all will be well. But it's like extra credit on the side of peace and ease when that's not happening. So everything groovy for me right now, bro. We just getting back to from filming my second season with Tonight's Conversation.
Mm,
I did season 5 with them last year, and then they just invited me back. So I just was filming all weekend. Still kind of recovering because the way they film is kind of crazy. Like when I went out there to film season 5 when we were still in Ohio at the studio, we filmed 48 episodes in 2 days.
yeah. Oh, damn.
Man.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
they
48,
like
2 days.
real style, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we kind of talk for a living and what we do, but it's different when it's like that regimented. So take a lot out of you. So I'm still in recovery mode, but it was a beautiful time. I was able to, kind of put my wife in a position to kind of get in the fold because I just wanted her to be there with me. She also had to handle some stuff in ATL while we was out there.
Mm.
By her being on set and being who she is, they was like, "Look, can we get both of y'all on?" So as soon as they asked, I'm like,
Of
"Beautiful."
course.
It was a good time. Good time.
Yeah, that's a blessing, King. That's a
Yeah.
blessing. So, please, allow people to know a little bit about your background. I'll start by asking you, where was it that you grew up, brother?
Yeah, so Brick City Buddha, for those that don't know, that may not be
Yeah.
from the East Coast, Brick City is a moniker for Newark, New Jersey, for
Mm.
multiple different reasons. A bunch of projects, a bunch of
Yeah,
brick buildings. When it's cold outside, we say it's brick, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then just, I guess, the hard nature and the energy of Newark. When I started to, level up, there was a period of my evolution where I did lose connection with my humanity.
Mm.
There was a time where I was gonna leave all this shit, bro. Can we curse?
Oh yeah, no, we absolutely concur.
All right, so yeah, there was a time I was gonna leave all this shit, and I still do give credit to my son's mother. Even though we're in a better space now, but we went through a lot of turmoil. Case in point, why I put out daddy issues, and it's
Yeah.
what it is. But when we were still in concert, I feel like she was I feel like I surfaced her into my reality to ground me. Because
Mhm.
before that, I was planning to secretly move to Rishikesh, India.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and I was going to leave everything behind. I wasn't going to tell nobody. I wasn't going to tell my family. And
That's
low
a
key, I
man that's been in deep meditation, though.
say again,
I said that's a man that's been in deep meditation.
bro, I was so disconnected from the grid.
Hmm.
And, I'm doing the Kundalini and the Qigong and all different types of things. And when people get into Kundalini, they concerned with the Kundalini rising. That thing still got to come back down for it to complete its journey. And I didn't anticipate for that. I didn't realize how detached I would be from that. So once I did get that realization, I did get that grounding from her, and then my son was on the way. All those things kind of helped gird me back into what my spirit was supposed to experience in this form of Brick City Buddha. I felt like if I did that, my mind was saying this is going to expedite my journey by going to Rishikesh. I would have set myself back, right? And it would have looked like on a spiritual level, oh nah, you just skipped a lot of this karma. But karma is not a bad thing. Of course, it needs to be transcended, but we got to kind of exhaust certain pieces of it. Because if you don't, you're gonna come back into future life cycles with that itch still needing to be scratched. And I know a huge part of what I'm doing as Brick City Buddha is me being able to scratch that, so I ain't got to do this shit the next time. You know what I mean?
You make a good point, brother. Are you familiar with the law of one?
School me.
Okay, yeah. So the law of one is a spiritual work that is channeled through LL research, and it's allegedly the channeling of a six-dimensional entity
Mm,
known as Ra. Ra
mm,
believes itself or claims to be a collective of the planet Venus from over 60 million years ago.
mm,
It's very fascinating stuff. But as Ra is speaking, Ra talks about all types of different topics, whether it comes from love, relationship, manhood, et cetera, et cetera. But one thing that touches on that you were just speaking on essentially is suppression.
mm,
So essentially you're speaking on spiritual bypassing, where you're like, you know what, I'm just
Yeah,
going to go straight over here, but I'm not
yeah,
going to address the thing that I'm suppressing. And what Ra states is one must always go with your desire. If you suppress the desire, just imagine you got your hand on something, you're pressing it away, that connects you to it.
yeah,
What I'm trying to say.
yeah,
Yeah, so suppression is connection, right?
yeah,
So, and that's essentially what it helps us see. It helps us see that what if there's a desire that exists, it must either be experienced intellectually through
right,
the imagination or experientially within the reality.
right,
So I'd only interject to say I concur, I understand. I
yeah.
read that for
No,
sure.
that's love, and that's the thing. Like with a lot of my clients, at this point in the game, I'm like 8, 9 years into the counseling. I've
Wonderful.
worked with over 1,600 clients, and for the most part, a lot of them either have spiritual inclination already, or
Yeah,
they see it's budding. They try to figure out what is this thing that's making me question the world and all this other stuff.
for sure.
And a lot of them get to the same point in different ways, where it's like, I want to just crack the grid. You know what I'm saying? I want to open the third eye. I want to expedite the process. And I found a lot of our approach to spirituality is impatient, and a lot of it is based on experience, right? We want to get to that point where we, sift back into our God nature and we can create cosmos and the third eye open and the sky crack. But all
Yeah,
that's still in the realm of consciousness. You know what I'm saying?
indeed.
So
Indeed.
whatever we experience here, whether it's the depths of our human or even demonic nature or the height of our divinity, is still in the realm of karma, samskara. It still all has its place. I think it was an autobiography of a yogi. But there's a certain point where, and for those who may not know that book, definitely one that you want to check out. Steve Jobs, a bunch of different celebrities credit this book with a lot of their
Absolutely.
success. But there's a point where the main person in the book, Paramahansa Yogananda, who was the first celebrity yogi in the States, he popularized Kriya Yoga over here in the 60s. And it's just this story of his journey coming into his guru nature. And he was studying under Lahiri Mahasaya, one of the other big dogs in Indian culture and yoga. And at a certain point when Lahiri transitioned, Paramahansa was in intense grief for years. And at a certain point, Lahiri chose to reincarnate just for a brief conversation.
Just for a moment.
Right, and they had a bunch of real talk. And at a certain point, he broke down how the afterlife works. He broke down how the heavens work. And at
Hmm.
a certain point, he said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he was like, the highest level of consciousness before you spill back over into nothingness completely is your God nature. And at that point, there is no form. You are able to create and manifest at the speed of intent. You don't even need, desire or anything like that. And this is the stage where these become the engines that create the cosmos. Like on a
Absolutely.
cosmological scale, they say black holes is the engines create.
Hmm.
You could kind of say that these energies, these beings that ascend to this point, go so much into their God nature. Now they just throwing creation out at whim. And even they need to be able to transcend divinity. You know what I'm saying? Even at that level, it's still a cage to a certain degree. It's still a
Absolutely.
prison. They even got to be able to let go of that level of power. So, in a human scope, I feel like a lot of times our perception is, I got to get to this point where I don't got to deal with none of this shit no more, and I'm in all my powers. Even when you get to that, it's still within the realm of
It's
consciousness.
still
So,
within the container,
yeah,
regardless of what,
mm-hmm.
and then the only way to exist with the one, like you're talking about, is just complete allowance,
Yeah,
complete acceptance,
mm-hmm.
complete no control.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yep.
And we don't understand that we live in a capitalist society, which is competitive by its nature. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So it's like we're always trying to one up. We always trying to, and I think the
Mm-hmm.
real thing is we always trying to trick the universe. We always
Yeah,
trying to bless the universe, not realizing
yeah,
that you could never do that.
right,
It's really a wicked way of thinking, but we
right.
all try to finesse the universe. You know what I'm saying? Which is what keeps us in those cycles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to continue along, you telling us where you're from and what you had been through to some degree, and how, like you said, you was gonna leave it all behind. But as you were growing up, as a young man, how do you feel like growing up in Newark really affected your masculinity and manhood? How do you feel like it shaped the perception of it and how and what you were?
Um, that's a great question. I'm trying to remember the lyric from one of my songs a few years ago. I got this song called "The Cycle,"
Mm,
and I said, I'm trying to remember the line before, but pretty much the line after the main line I wanted to say is, I said, by 18, I was embarrassed that I ain't catch a body. You know
mm,
what I'm saying? Like I hadn't killed somebody at 18 already.
mm.
So, and it's weird too because I had the dichotomy of being in this environment but also growing up in an extremely devout Christian household. You know what I'm saying? Mother, the trust, nah, not a trustee. What you call them? The women in the white shit at the churches. The usher. Mom
Yeah,
was an usher, right? Mom
yeah,
was a Sunday school teacher. Father was a deacon, was a trustee. So it's church 3-4 times a week. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? I don't want to go, but low
yeah,
key it started to get fun because all the homies was there. You know, your little community still end up at the church, so you
yeah,
cool with it after a while. But it was
yeah,
that dichotomy, that strictness, that forcefulness of perception. I remember when I was like really starting to get into hip hop, you know, I felt demonized for it. Like I remember a whole moment where they came in my room like, all right, you gotta throw all your hip hop tapes out. And I'm
God.
sitting there crying. I'm getting all my shit together, putting it in the brown
Yeah,
bag, right? So
yeah,
on one end, I got this level of stringence. On the other end, it's the
yeah,
hood, my nigga. And even as growing up in that Christian household, I'm still connected to it. Still mad homies that right down the street is hustling. They ain't got their dads. Moms is on crack, all type of shit. Going to school, walking across crack vials, and it's the 80s too.
mm,
How young are you again? At least your vessel. How young is your vessel?
39.
39. So yeah, we pretty much in the same bracket. You know, my vessel is 43, be
Yeah,
44 this year. But
yeah,
you know that dichotomy is exactly what I needed to understand the need for duality, the acceptance of both sides, and my name, Brick City
yeah,
Boo.
yeah,
It, both sides in one, both aspects of that polarity in one. So as hard as Newark was on me in a lot of ways, and then one I don't think I ever really talked about is me having, I guess, a saintly heart or spirit, probably based on what I've experienced in previous life cycles, work I've already done. There's a certain innocence to me, bro. Right? There's a purity in me that again I felt the need to suppress, and I really didn't come into my power until I said, "Fuck it." You know what I mean? This is who I am. Not only do I not got to be extra tough no more, like that was something I had already got past. But by the time I got to my wife, I was cool being silly. I was cool being a kid and going into my inner child, not just in my spiritual work, but just being a grown ass man that could do inner child shit. I needed that aspect of myself to be able to do what I'm doing now. So there's a lot of different layers to what Newark produced for me. And then
yeah,
before I came, last thing I say before I came to Houston, the last 3-4 years of Newark, I don't know if conquered is the right word because I don't want to put hubris in it, but for lack of a better term, for me to be able to conquer Newark in the way I did, when I thought it was going to have to be as a drug dealer, when I thought it was going to have to be as a famous rapper who went out and conquered the music industry and brought it back to Newark, I became what I had been longing to be seen as in a whole different way as the Buddha nigga, as the Brick City Buddha nigga. So to get that all out of Newark before I transition, as much bullshit as it put me through, I'm extremely grateful.
that's
Yeah,
beautiful,
for
brother.
my Jerusalem, that's what Newark is to me. It's my Jerusalem.
For
Yeah.
sure. That's beautiful, brother. I mean, you look, I was gonna ask certain questions, but you already was hitting it. And
We here.
yeah, 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 yeah. You locked in.
Yeah.
So who would be a role model for you when you were a younger man, just to fully embody? Who's that individual that fully embodies what you felt like you needed to become?
Give me an age frame because it shifted.
And you true, true. I say between the ages of, we say 18. Let's just call it 18 to 20.
18. At that point, my role model was probably, yeah, I would say Saul Williams.
Mm,
For those that may not be aware, the slam poetry era, like the late '90s, early 2000s, and Saul Williams was the Jordan of that shit. You know what I'm saying? I think he's gone on to shift into media and movies and stuff like that. Written a lot of books, but he was the man as far as slam poetry. So it would, and you know, I was a poet at the time. I hadn't got into MCing or rapping or anything like that yet.
Sure.
And this was the period where I was like in the middle of the Christianity and studying to be a minister from about 16 to 19. I thought that was supposed to be my path, right?
Yeah,
So the only aspect of art that was safe for me at that point, that felt safe, that felt like I wasn't, you know, setting myself up for eternal damnation,
yeah,
was poetry, right?
yeah.
And I got really good at poetry, and I was 16, 17, 18 years old, going to colleges and the New Eurekan and all these different spots in the tri-state area. But at that time, it was Saul Williams, real life person I could kind of sink my teeth into and wrap my mind around. And then low key, as far as media, as far as movies, still in that poetry framework,
Mm.
Diaries Love Hall.
Yeah, okay.
Saying
Yeah, yeah,
love
yeah,
Jones,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because Saul Williams was a figure bigger than life in real life, but he was like eccentric. He
Yeah,
wasn't what I was used to as far as a black man. Darius
yeah, yeah.
Lovehall was more in that pocket and somebody I identified with. So that was kind of like my two bookends as far as what I was looking up to at the time.
That makes sense. So,
Yeah.
and I asked that in contrast to now after, well, actually, let me ask you this first. Do you feel like manhood and masculinity are the same thing?
It's a great question. Nobody ever asked me that before.
For sure, brother. We're gonna have a lot of those, me and you.
Facts. I don't think they're the same thing. Now that I'm kind of vetting it
Didn't
right
think
now
you
for
would,
real.
and I just want to hear your expansion. You know.
So with manhood, I feel like manhood is the um the Pentium chip in the computer. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying?
mm,
Whereas masculinity is the extras that you got to go download. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So
mm,
manhood is the template, is what we come into the grid with as far as being men and having more of this quote unquote masculine energy flowing through us, the linearness, the logicness, the
mm,
problem solving, all that type of shit.
for
That's
sure.
already built in. What you do with that
Mm,
can turn into masculinity. And I feel like a lot of men never actually reach masculinity for real because masculinity is the mastery. Now
mm,
that I'm thinking about it, of that template, of that mainframe of what manhood has the potential to
mm,
grow into. And for us to really be able to access masculinity, it requires us accessing femininity. Manhood don't require that shit. You can just be a
indeed.
man's man and get the muscles and get the guap and get the money and don't touch no other part of it.
Mm.
Masculinity is the incorporation and the mastery of all these different, aspects of the human experience. That's how I would look at it. Great question, bro.
No, great answer. Great answer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that leads me to the next part. Is gender roles a thing in a divine union? And then we can get into some of your divine union if you want to share some of that.
I wouldn't say gender roles are. I would say gender respect is. You know what I'm saying? Because you
Word.
get to that point, if you're talking about a divine union and people, the two individuals have already been doing that work previous to connection, and then once they choose to live life together, especially if they're cohabitating, there's still a benefit to what society has said is our roles as men and women, but we're not locked into that. I
Mm,
can still assume some of what society would say as my wife roles or vice versa when the time presents itself. But outside of if I need to do that or just stay in my little, masculine manhood box, there's still a respect for the other side. There's still an understanding that she may still be, better at certain things and vice versa. So I think the respect more so than the role, the rigidity of the role, I feel like is a lot of times what messes people up. Not every man is built to lead as far as finances.
indeed.
Not every man is built to lead as far as planning and
Indeed.
crunching the numbers and all this other shit. A lot of men is built to lead as far as going to work to do the electronic shit behind the walls and come home and not have to touch none of the money. Here, baby, here go my shit, right? And
Mhm.
he's great at that. A lot of men is really built to be doulas. You know what I'm saying? Like I seen the new black male doula movement. Have you seen that?
I have not seen it. No, I haven't.
Popped up on my feed a couple months ago. There's a new black male doula movement happening. I forgot what city it was in, but it's just dope that in 2025 the veil is coming down enough for us to start to step out of what the world has told us we're supposed to do based on what's between our legs. And I feel like the more we have that autonomy, the more we got that freedom, we'll start to discover we kind of been crunching ourselves into a box of other people's perceptions or OPP that didn't allow us to maximize our full potential, right? So yeah, that's my long-winded answer to say not roles, but respect, appreciation, and malleability
Yeah.
that genders have to offer to each other in a relationship.
Yeah, for sure, bro. You know, like I appreciate that answer. Listen,
Yeah,
because like I definitely feel when it comes to people looking for relationship, we're constantly looking for somebody to save us in many different ways. And I say in
yeah,
a common general way,
yeah,
you know, many people are just looking to be saved, and then that way they don't have to deal with the thing internally. Us as men, as an example, most of us are not very strong in the nurturing department in the
right,
natural sense, right? In the same way a female is not very strong physically, you
right,
know. So in that regard, we're much weaker emotionally. And because most men, we want the nurturing of a woman,
yeah,
we desire it, we need the validation. Without the woman's validation, all the work and effort we do is almost like, what are we doing it for? But I feel though as though it is to compensate for the lack of nurturing we've been able to provide ourselves.
hmm and was you gonna say something else?
One
I want
just
to
one last thing,
go
one
ahead.
last thing. It was cool. I didn't mind the interjection, but I would say that, and then on the flip side, the feminine, you know, it looks for that safety, that
Mhm.
protection, and that security from the masculine, just in general, because being in the physical world, the feminine can sense the vulnerability that they have in comparison. But I think it's a similar thing of internally not having found that masculine energy that connects them back to the father energy to know that all will be well and she's always protected.
And that's exactly where I was about to go with it. That last piece of what you said, I feel like, you know, the men who are connecting to our feminine energy, you know, we get that four-letter word thrown at us. You know, simp this, simp that, and then
Yeah,
on the other side, the women who are connected to their masculine energy, they're being told they're too masculine, right?
indeed.
If you're talking divine union, and I see it in so many different ways with my wife and vice versa, and we talk about it all the time. Her having to be as masculine as she's had to be, you know, 10 years of military service, 7 years as a police officer, um, her ability to lock into logic when necessary, right?
Mhm.
To be able to coordinate and crunch numbers and have respect for logic. I needed that in a woman. A lot of my arguments previous to being with my wife in relationships was based on the women I was with putting how they felt at the forefront without respect for the logical end that I needed, right?
Indeed, indeed.
And then on my end with my wife, me being able to dive into my feminine nurturing and cultivating emotion and being able to understand the questions I'm supposed to ask when I feel something may be a little off and she don't know how to voice it just yet. I needed that because she had to go so far into her masculine. She needed some help reconnecting to her feminine and
Feminine.
vice versa, right? So in a divine relationship, what the world deems as a bad thing, I needed my wife to have some of that masculine shit flowing through her.
For sure.
She needed her husband to have some of that feminine shit flowing through him. And when the world is saying it's simple, too masculine, that's actually a reflection of balance. When
For
you
sure.
got a man's man on one end of the spectrum, you got a woman's woman on the other end of the spectrum.
It ain't gonna work.
That's not homeostasis. That's
It's
not
not gonna work.
that's not pH balance. That's
Exactly.
0 over here, 14 over here. I need something in that 7 pocket. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. For sure. You kicking it now though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because the next thing I wanted to say, your opinion is do you feel like the soul has a gender?
You like three, and I've had so many interviews in my day, bro. You done back to back to back hit me with 3 or 4 questions nobody ever asked me. I appreciate this.
No, for sure, bro. Want to do something different with
Yeah, nah, I don't feel like soul has gender. I feel like soul is that level right before duality hardens and solidifies into a form that may necessarily need a gender. I do feel like, soul, jiva, whatever name people want to use for it. It has the autonomy to go whatever direction it may need to in the moment. It got that malleability, but I don't feel like it's relegated to either side.
Indeed, brother. I love it. Look,
Yeah.
this is the thing. When you tapped in, even if I come with a question like that, you can check it against your own higher self
Yeah.
and kind of feel your way through it,
Yeah.
which is what you've been doing. You see
Mhm.
what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I would have to agree because the soul, if we look at just, are you familiar with the University of Virginia? They have a department dedicated to reincarnation.
Nah.
Yeah, it's the Department of Perceptual Studies.
Wow.
So it's been there since the 1960s, brother. You
Wow.
got some stuff to
That's
look
great.
at. Yeah. So when you dive into that, they found thousands upon thousands of cases of children between the ages of 2 and 6 who spontaneously start recalling the past life, where they worked, the first car they had, mundane things like a pair of shoes they used to like to wear, all these different things. But they also could recall how they passed away. And the reason that most of these people from 2 to 6 were able to remember was because they passed away in some violent sense or some very sudden, impactful sense, right? So they were reincarnating within 9 months to 10 years of the previous life. Because they were reincarnated so quickly, a lot of the previous family members were still alive.
Wow.
So they were able to connect the dots through that
Wow.
by taking the information of them, unbeknownst to these new children, taking them to these cities that they've never been before in this life, just to see if they recognize the place they claim to be from. And instantaneously, they're recognizing it. Instantaneously, they knew the family members without ever seeing them in this life. And I'm saying this to say, if that information is true, a lot of the times the children will skip genders. And when they switch being male immediately to female, a lot of the times they would come out as homosexual or
Wow.
you know what I'm saying, from the immediate switch.
Right.
Because so much of the other polarity had been embedded in the soul. Now incarnating, this occurs. But it just to go a little bit down, further down that rabbit hole. If you go on YouTube, you just type in near death experiences. They have a bunch of channels like Coming Home. It's nothing but near death experiences. And these people are able to remember, making their life plan, et cetera, et cetera. And one thing that they recall is having experiences as the other gender
Absolutely.
at different times. So that really hits home for me because even somebody who you say like yourself, you have an innocent soul. I also had that same soul. This is why we see each other in each other. And the thing about that is that means that you must have experienced some level of femininity in some experience in order to understand what the nurturing component is. You see what I'm saying? It
Absolutely.
has to be embodied on an energetic, because it's an energy. So it has to be something that you can swim through and move through.
Yeah.
That's all this is. So when we're thinking about these gender roles and people saying you need to do this and you need to do that, like it doesn't make room for what the soul itself is. And the soul is a being that wants to experience and wants to understand and wants to be seen as much as it wants to see a thing. It wants to unify with the thing. And the only way to do that is to see each other, right?
Absolutely.
And if we're saying that I'm man and I'm woman and we just staying far apart, there's no way to truly see each other. You always see the division instead of seeing the unity. So I appreciate this.
Yeah, no, that's crazy, and that's facts because a lot of the value in me and Candace's relationship is not even the lovey-dovey shit. I mean, that's beautiful, and I feel like that comes very rare in the soul's experience, like in the Sikh tradition or Sikh, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
For those who may not know, that's usually the white dudes. I ain't seen too many black Sikhs, but usually the white dudes are Mediterranean. They got the long white beard, the turban, jewel right here, white throat. But in their culture, they believe that it takes a normal jiva, a normal soul, about 6 billion different iterations, 6 billion different forms, to come back into total recall to where they don't got to do this form shit no more, right? And we pretty much gonna go through damn near every expression
Exactly.
of what we can experience on a jiva or a soul level. So a lot of times when people feel bad for the homeless my nigga, you've been homeless, right? Probably a
You
hundred
already
times.
know. Yeah, for sure.
When we
For
feel
sure.
jealous of the stars and the celebrities, and you've been at, we're gonna experience everything, and that takes away a lot of the need to feel bad for other people or to feel like you're not getting the most out of what you're supposed to get. But with me and my wife, most of our value in our relationship is on that soul level. And we may not have like broke it down in the language that you just did to each other, but a lot of this work has to do with things that don't even correlate to this life. You know what I'm saying? And it may not be a direct, oh yeah, this is a past life conversation that's coming up in the midst of this turmoil. It don't be that, but we'll do the work in a moment. And sometimes we'll get mad at each other in the midst of doing that, but we always are able to come back around, figure out the logistics of what we was, maybe arguing about, and then a broader conversation will open up.
Mm.
Well, we'll recognize, oh damn, this connects to when I was 5 years old. This connected to this trauma over here, and then that will open
That's
up,
dope.
even if just on a sensory level, things that may things that may have needed to be worked out from previous life cycles that we now have the opportunity to do with each other based on that gender flexibility, respect, and appreciation on both sides. So now you connected those dots beautifully, bro.
Appreciate that, brother. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, bro. No, it's a really powerful thing when, because I think that that's when they're talking about being equally yoked in general. I think they're talking about being present, and I think that what that really means is you're present enough to recognize that you're neither gender, you're a soul, and you're present enough to see that the being in front of you is also a soul. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're not so immersed in the samsara, in the illusion,
Mm-hmm.
that you believe yourself to be the physical vessel. So, and that's the same as believing that God is all things and that God is with you, because when you're
Mm-hmm.
so devoted to God, then even the problem in front of you doesn't seem like a problem. So if
Exactly.
you feel that way, and I also feel that way, now whatever the problem is, we both ascended that problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it gives you even more respect whether the connection, the relationship is quote unquote toxic or as beautiful as what me and Candace got. We were just watching a movie 2 days ago. You ever seen Past Lives?
I don't believe so. No.
Check that out. I know you'll be able to appreciate it. I was on the flight back. I usually don't watch movies, but when I'm on a flight, source work in different ways. So I was compelled. My last little 50 minutes, I'm like, let me see what they got. And I saw
Yeah.
this title, Past Lives. I only watched like maybe 40 minutes of it on the flight. But I'm like, I told my wife I'm gonna watch it with you. And without giving away too much, there's a principle in the movie that's an actual principle that's called Inyan.
Mm.
Inyeon. I just wrote I don't write many poems no more, but I was inspired after the movie. Me and my wife had a dope ass moment where
Yeah.
we had catharsis for previous versions of ourselves that lost the forms of each other, honoring what we got in this life, and then kind of grieving when we're gonna have to let these forms go, right? But I was compelled to write a poem about it that's now on my page. But Inyan is pretty much it's a spinoff of Buddhist ideology, a spinoff of karma, but Inyan is pretty much the buildup of energy that two jivas souls may share. And they said to even brush a person's garment as you walking across them on the street, y'all don't even say nothing to each other. But to just have that level of contact takes thousands of layers of
Mm.
you know what I'm saying? And when you get to the point where you are able to marry an individual, they say it takes at least 8,000 layers of Indian being developed over multiple life cycles.
Mm.
So, with that context, of course, the appreciation for what me and Candace got, but it's had me looking back at, bridge relationships, situationships, people I just fought, you know what I'm saying? All different type of shit. You start to realize and have a higher level of respect for while that being is in your space, there is a very high level of um, gift that source is trying to bestow to you. And whether it's just the brushing across your garment and you having a fight or argument with somebody or you having matrimony, every single expression of relationship is still source. It's still God saying, I love you. I'm trying to remind you how much I love you. And you are the embodiment of my love for you all at the same time. The
Man.
appreciation goes up, which makes you slower to anger,
Mm.
slower to judgment, right? Gives you more empathy. All these different things start to balance out in our approach to how many expressions love is taking on in ways we often overlook.
Facts, brother. Indeed. It reminds me of the biblical verse, Matthew 4:20, I believe it is. And it says that he who loves God, he who says he loves God is a liar. For how can you say you love God who you have not seen when you do not love your brother who you have seen? And it's so powerful because it really says that if you can't love the least of us, then you can never know God.
Yeah.
You got to be able to embrace
Yeah.
what's in front of you because it's God trying to tell you something every
Yeah.
time. The most wicked of the wicked is trying to teach you that wickedness isn't even a real thing. It's just ignorance.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a lack of awareness.
Absolutely. And then when I was reading about Indian, there's another term for it. I forgot the name of this term, but they was pretty much saying the way we are able to um, accrue Indian, right, is in these little moments that we overlook, even if we engage in a loving way, like you on a subway, and an elderly person need a seat, and you get up and give them the seat, right?
Mm.
You hold the door open for somebody, like all these little things that a lot of us don't even engage in those expressions of love. But even if we do, you may feel good in the moment, but we have no idea the ripples that are going into our karmic profile based on these little expressions that in certain ways. There's this book I'm reading by Fernando Pessoa. I don't even know the name of the book right now. I'll send it to you, or maybe you can
Yeah,
put
yeah,
it in.
I'll put it in.
Matter of fact, hold on. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead, go ahead. It's all good. Go ahead.
Right here, next to my bed.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good, baby. Maybe it ain't. I guess I moved it. Baby, what's the name of Fernando Pessoa book? What's the name of Fernando Pessoa's book that you bought me? You remember? Give me the book of disquiet. The book of disquiet.
The
Bro.
book of disquiet.
The book of disquiet.
Oh, the book of disquiet. Okay,
Bro.
got you.
Bro. I probably only read because it take a lot for me to read that shit, not because it's a
Yeah,
hard read.
yeah.
Like I feel like he was a yogi or guru in many life cycles, and he decided not to do the spiritual teach type of thing. And he just decided to write, but he was very manic in his approach to his writing, and he wasn't discovered till hundreds of years afterwards.
Oh
And
wow.
the way he writes, like it's not a sequential book. He'll
Mm.
embody different aspects of his personality and write as that particular character. Some chapters are
Oh
written
wow.
backwards. Some chapters he writes the exact same way, with one word being different in the chapter, and it's
Mm.
extremely like morbid and dark, right? But it's beautiful all
I
at the
about to
same
say
time.
the shadow beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the greatest expressions of shadow I ever been able to engage. But there's one chapter where he was kind of comparing, romantic, lifelong, soulmate level love
Yeah.
to these brief exchanges of just being a good person to somebody. And he kind of was vetting through it as he's writing it at the end of the chapter. He kind of exalted
Mm.
the giving your seat to the elderly person or holding the door open. He actually exalted that above the romantic connection. So we don't realize how powerful and how much access we have to be able to shift our reality, not just in this life, but for many lives to come in these ways that we overlook how we can love one another.
Facts, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. I might have to actually check that one out.
Yeah, bro. Book of Disquiet. Like I said, I probably read maybe at this point 10 chapters. I'll be taking like a month in between reading it because when I go into it, every single line, it just punch you in your soul chest.
Yeah,
Yeah, definitely check out the Book of Disquiet.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So I got another question for you.
Yes,
You know
sir.
how to do.
Yes, sir.
And this one, I want you to use your imagination a little bit, just a little bit. You ain't gotta use it too much. You know what I'm saying? So I say imagine that when you leave this plane, there is a wall. And this is known as the wall of masculinity and manhood. And on this wall, every man can leave behind just one thing that they can share with all the men for men to understand. There's only one message that you could get across to men that you believe would help evolve men and you could put on this wall of masculinity.
No, you may be the goat out here, bro. I know you're a phenomenal artist, and you got the restaurant, all that type shit.
For
Yeah, you
sure.
may be one of the goats. Usually that would be a difficult question, especially the way you framed it. And I closed my eyes, I went into my imagination, but that's gonna be an easy one for me.
Beautiful.
And it would be, I kind of remixed it from, when 9/11 happened, and being in Jersey at the time, every, public transportation, subway, airport, everywhere you went, you will always see the sign. You in Virginia or Charlotte or something like that, right?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
Y'all probably had the same thing, especially at that time. I feel like it was everywhere.
Yeah,
But it will always be that sign. If you see something, say something,
yeah,
right? If you
yeah,
see luggage, something weird, go
yeah.
alert the authorities. At this point in my journey, I realized, and my mantra has been, if I feel something, I gotta say something. I gotta get this shit out. That may not be in the particular moment. I may need an hour or a day or a week to process this shit. I don't gotta be an asshole with how I deliver it. I don't gotta be mean. Sometimes I actually may need anger to deliver the message, right?
Mhm.
It's diversity in how it's supposed to come out. But I know if I feel it. I know if it hits my heart in a way where it becomes luggage and or baggage. I know at a certain point that thing gotta come out.
Right.
And I realize now, and I say this to a lot of my clients, that speaking your truth, saying what's on your heart, communication, I say, it's not for being heard. It's not for being seen, listened to, agreed with, understood. If any of those things happen from me saying something because I feel something, great. That's extra credit. At its core is really my system, my meridians, my vital organs, my bloodstream, all these different aspects that's holding the energy in ways a lot of times we don't pay attention to. It's those systems saying, my nigga, can you take the trash out? We getting jammed up in here, bro. Right? And the more I started to understand that, I started to realize my blockage in my expression was based on result, based on outcome, and based on the extrapolation that this person is not going to know what to do with
Mm,
this expression. They're
mm.
not going to know how to hold my heart. They're not going to understand. They're going to negatively judge me. They're going to say I'm soft or whatever the narrative may have been. I was able to confront that was the blockage. And when I got to the point where I realized, oh, this is what communication is for, it's just taking out the trash. As I started to do that, regardless of their capacity to hear me out, I was right. A lot of the people in my life at that time didn't have the capacity to hold my heart, to understand where I was coming from. But then that started the process of either them feeling like, you doing too much. You mean now, you speaking up all the time. And they would leave my life, or I would recognize I need to push these people out of my life.
Oh,
And as that process happened, my lane got clear. And the energy started to have the space to send that APB out to the people that could. My tribe now, my wife, my brothers, my friends, my sisters, my supporters, my audience, they now had the space to come into my life. And it don't mean they always agree with me, but he at least got the capacity to hear me out. I had to go through that ugly stage of saying it regardless of the outcome. And now I still do that, but I got a tribe in my life that knows what to do with this information, whether they agree or not. So that would be what I would write on that wall. If I feel something, I gotta say something.
that's beautiful, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm gonna make a clip out of that one right there.
yeah,
Oh God, you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Yeah, for
No
sure.
doubt, no doubt. And have you seen the movie Magazine Dreams?
I have not. Nope.
Jonathan Majors, he's making
Yeah,
his
yeah,
return to Hollywood,
for
and I
sure.
know I know he just got put back into the Marvel universe. So whenever that come out, that's going to be like his official return to the media. But
Yeah.
this one he produced himself, right? He
Mm.
helped co-write this joint, and bro, it's one of the most powerful movies I've ever seen, but probably the most powerful depiction of how fragile masculinity is. You know what I'm saying? And how much we kind of pushed into a corner of either completely breaking, right, and killing somebody or killing ourselves or doing just crashing out in some way, shape, or form, or just silently eating hell day in and
Yeah,
day out in ways that
yeah. We're gonna
nobody
do
else
that.
sees. Beautiful depiction of that. I recommend that to your audience. And Black Man to Black Man, definitely go check that out. Support him too, but
What you say was
that's
Magazine Dreams?
called Magazine Dreams.
All right,
Yep,
and shout out to Jonathan Major, man.
absolutely.
Yeah, the brother got railroaded, but
Yeah,
everything's good now. We on the
yeah,
other side of that. It goes down like that sometimes. It all
facts,
happens how it's supposed to.
facts,
Minor setback, major comeback. We know what it is.
facts.
So,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, it's big love. It's big love. So the last question, I ain't gonna ask it just yet, 'cause I got one more. I got one more. One more of them. I ain't the rest of them is all cool though.
you
But
you freestyling all this?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Some,
Yeah.
well, no, I had two of them. I had.
Okay. Okay.
Two of them I had. That
Yeah,
was
a lot
one
of
of
men
them
swore
I
though.
had.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That one I had. You feel me?
Okay.
Yeah, and the last one I got as well. But this manhood thing that we are all trying to chase down. I want to see how I can say this.
Mm-hmm.
Do we feel like, what do you think the real core of that is? What do you feel like the the goal of us reaching? I'll say it like this. 'Cause I'm really trying to form the idea of
Mm-hmm.
this. Kind of like how everybody wants to, as you were saying earlier, get to the destination.
Mm-hmm.
We're very impatient with spirituality. That's what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
So now within masculinity itself, as we know, as men, we're always doing the same thing. We running. We trying to achieve the goal.
Mm-hmm.
None of us feel like we can rest ever. You know what I'm saying? The responsibility of carrying the family, all
Mm-hmm.
the different things. Ultimately, if you had to put it into a word, what is it that you feel like us as men are really chasing? I ain't think it was gonna be one of them questions. My bad.
Nah, you good. You good. That's a good thing. Recognition.
There you fucking go.
Yeah, acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement. There it is. There's my
Yeah,
guy. Yeah.
acknowledgement.
We wanted. Look, there was a good skit on IG. It was a dude. He pulls up. You think he's pulling up on a prostitute? She's like, "All right, what's up?" He was like, "I got 100." She's like, "Nah, it's 150 now." He's like, "150 just for you to tell me that you appreciate what I'm doing for my family?"
I did see that.
You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
he like fuck it.
Yeah. He was like, boom, and that's why I wanted to see if that was your perspective, because it really goes back to the truth of it. As men, emotionally, are we mad fragile? Because we come up, we looking for that feminine energy, right? We want to be embraced by that, and you say you want your mother to hold you and coddle you and do all of the things. And one of the best things is when your mama lifts you up, says you a good boy, and this and the third, and gives you approval, right? And
Mm,
boy, oh boy, we always looking for that validation. And I've seen often, I'm sure you see with your clients as well, that the average brother or just man I talk to doesn't feel appreciated, you
mm,
know, doesn't feel appreciated. And it's unfortunate. I think the true solution, of course, is we have to find that appreciation within ourselves. We can no
mm.
longer what's the word I'm looking for?
External
Outsource,
touch. Yeah.
outs there
Mm-hmm.
we go. Outsource the happiness. We can no longer outsource the happiness. But in relationship, though, the scariest thing is actually what I think is the answer, which is you have to be the first one to be vulnerable. You have to be the one to show who you are, and you have to open up a way that you're and accept the fact that when you do show yourself, as you said earlier, they might not have the capacity for you.
Mm-hmm.
But what that will do is create alignment, and there's no happiness without alignment. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no happiness without alignment.
Yeah, and respondents to that and correspondence to that, you know, we get called dogs, as far as men, but the negative aspect of how people mean that. There's a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
beautiful, positive aspect to our, I guess, canine nature, right?
for sure.
And a dog do something good, and a good dog, right? That
Yeah,
tail
yeah,
get
yeah,
waggling, all that energy
yeah,
start.
yeah, yeah,
We got
yeah,
that same shit, bro. And
yeah.
now having a woman that has really coached me and being able to acknowledge things within myself more, seeing myself more. I was already doing that work, but she's expedited my process,
Indeed.
especially with, celebrating myself. I ask a lot of brothers, what would your letter grade be throughout your life, or how well you celebrated yourself, whether the moment was big or small. The average grade I hear is F. We don't even think about, because we always think about, all right, what's next? I accomplished this, cool. I'm gonna go
Yeah,
drink, smoke, fuck on something, go to
yeah.
the next thing. But a lot of times we don't sit in that energy. So she's helped me with that, and it's made me less reliant, less needy in that way. But there's still a certain aspect of me with even little shit, bro. Like with things around the house. When I was a bachelor, and I was a bachelor for 15 years, pretty much taking
Yeah.
care of myself, living by myself. Even when I was in relationships, I still lived by myself.
Yeah.
I know how to clean. Like I'm real
Yeah.
good at that. Our cleaning styles is different, right? So most of our arguments has been about cleaning shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
I also going back to gender roles. I've cooked for a large portion of my life.
Yeah.
I was a chef at a restaurant. My last job I ever worked for somebody else. My wife didn't cook. She also had food trauma. She hadn't even tasted shit like tomatoes and avocados. You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. So
Mhm.
she didn't have the understanding of what it takes to have to prepare meals day in and day out. And then you cook a big dinner and you go through that whole process and then you wash it. And I'm not putting the dishes under the sink and drying shit down. It's like, my nigga, I just did all this shit
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
not be able to relate to, but she kept telling me how important it was for her to, because our kitchen doubles as one of her offices. You know, we built onto the house. So
Mhm.
before that was her main area. So
Yeah.
her being able to keep that in order helps her be productive and creative throughout the day, right? So she
Yeah.
was able to connect those dots for me. And it took me a while to get on board and to get consistent with it. But when I did, it made me feel good, not just to honor her. But I started to notice, like, you know what? It do feel good to come downstairs in the morning and all this shit be done. And, it's just clean and pristine energy in the building. And then it would get to the points where I would do it. And it's like, baby, you know, look at it. I did it, right? And like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And I'm looking for the acknowledgement in the most simple, mundane things.
Yeah.
And I've realized more about myself, about manhood, about masculinity. That acknowledgement is the engine. It's the inertia, right? Well,
Absolutely.
if a woman can give us that, we'll run through 10 fucking brick walls a day,
Easy.
no problem, no complaint, with happiness in our heart doing this shit. If we are getting that reciprocity, that inertia, that engine coming back.
That,
So yeah, more than anything, I feel like we're looking for that acknowledgement, and we starved of it in a lot of ways.
boy, you said something real there, bro, because that's the one thing that I know the feminine doesn't understand. So for
Yeah.
our female viewers, I know you feel like he might not be doing enough. I know you feel like you can see the higher version of him than he can see in himself.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's what you expect out of him. But you believe that pushing him physically or pushing
Right.
him with your words by
Right.
saying, you could do better. You feel like giving him masculine energy will make him move more.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, nah, because what how the man's gonna interpret that is you don't appreciate what he already doing,
Yeah.
see what he already doing, and you don't celebrate what he already
Right.
doing. So he feel like he do any more, then he just gonna get more of what he's already getting. You see what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
So, sisters, I only tell you that to say, if you really love your man, you meet him where he is, and you do your best with your own capacity. Because listen, we all got capacity at the end of the day. That's it. And you got to honor your own nervous system. So if you don't have it in you anymore to open yourself in that way, well then honestly it's time to go. It just is what it
Right.
is, in my opinion. But if you still have it in you, there's still love in you. You meet that man where he is, and then celebrate what he is doing right. Celebrate the things you do love, and I think that you'll find that he'll start to show up in more of the ways that you would like.
And one thing to that too, when
Hmm.
I was on tonight's conversation, what's the brother's name? I had just met him. I think it's 500 something his Instagram, but he's real big in LA. He's real big on like business content and leveling up and getting to the bag. And he was one of the guests on one of the episodes we did,
Yeah,
and he was pretty much saying that his lady is kind of what you his wife is kind of what you just referenced as far as like being that hard, show me, right, prove
yeah,
it to
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
do
Prove.
more, right. And he
Yeah.
was like, yo, that fuels me, like that'll make me run through a brick wall. So
Mm,
there may be women out here that will hear this like, well, my little harsh way is working, he's doing it.
true.
There's still, I feel like, a cap to that. And he may go the rest of his life. Let's say y'all married 30, 40 years and y'all leave this grid still in matrimony.
Hmm.
And that way has seemed to work the whole time. That will still leave holes, I feel like, in most cases, in what he needs on a heart level and what his
Absolutely.
femininity needs, where he may still go get the bag, he may still produce, he may even feel like, yeah, she motivates me, she inspires me. But that cap may go unconscious to what the other end of the energy is able to do. he may not be able to show up for you in the emotional arena without getting that acknowledgement, right? There may be aspects of what he can do financially that may not be accessed. You may feel like, well, shit, he making $2 million a year based off how I'm doing it. He may be destined to make 10. But being that you are relegated to this harsh, beating him down or forcefully, aggressively pushing him into more of his masculinity, there are aspects of that that still limit us in ways that a lot of times we won't be conscious of. In the acknowledgement aspect, now you are starting to push him into his surplus. You know what I mean? Because even with him going to get to the bag, a lot of that is out of exhaustion, also out of begrudging, resentment, right? Yeah, it may be working and, she's telling me to do this, that, and the third, but there's pieces of me that don't like that shit, but I just transmute it into motivation. I go harder, but there's parts of me that don't like that shit. So even in him acknowledging what it is you asking for him to do better or more of, it's still turning off pieces of his heart in ways a lot of times we don't acknowledge as men or women.
For sure. I think it translates to us as it being almost transactional.
Exactly. Yup. Exactly.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Good.
Well, my brother, I know we're approaching on this hour. And first of all, the conversation been amazing.
Facts.
I appreciate you.
Facts.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I
Likewise.
appreciate what you do in the community. I really do. I've been a fan. I've been sitting back watching. I see your light. I see how you shine it. I feel like it's a good look for masculinity. The way I like to think about things in general is we all are repping with our energy for what it is that we believe in. You know what I'm saying? I feel like you putting on, you showing younger brothers another way to be masculine.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody ain't going to agree with that, but
Right.
everybody also doesn't live with an open heart, so they don't understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just wanted to take this moment just to acknowledge you, tell you I appreciate you, and I appreciate you moving with that open heart. And it's seen, by a brother like me and by so many all over the globe, bro. And and with that being said, I got my last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to the one I asked about the fellas, but just in this time, it's for the women. So you're gonna imagine a similar thing. You're gonna sit back and imagine that before you leave this realm, that the feminine too wants to know specifically what is it that you could share with the feminine that can help them finally see the masculine in the way that the masculine wants to be seen and understood. What message is it that you could share with them and write on that wall that will help them see us in a way that would be more beneficial and embracing and understanding? And you can take your time, because I know I hit you with it.
It's a few on my mind. I'm trying to find the right one. Can I give you a few different ones?
Yeah, but it's all good. Yeah, go ahead. Give
All
me
right.
what's
So,
in your
so
heart.
I would tag the first one. Um, that even the worst of masculinity that you will experience, the worst possible relationship, the worst possible man you may experience, he's not a monster. Not a monster. It's still God showing up in him as well for you, for what you need. Secondly, I will write, you ain't got to do it all today, sis.
Mm,
Ain't got to do it all today. Um, because I feel like one of the main blockages and what comes up in a lot of the women that I work with, as far as them being able to have more compassion and understanding and empathy for us, being that they done dealt with a lot of shit that has come at the hands of men. What ends up getting in the way of that is, their effort to kind of take our place, to be just as ambitious. I mean, 2025, this is the most successful generation of women, especially black women, that we've ever seen. And they the bosses now,
mm,
right? And they are navigating the ancestral impact of that, the lineage of women who didn't get that chance to embody what they embodying right now. They're
yeah,
doing work for them,
yeah,
as well as being able to express what they're trying to get off. And this puts them in positions where it's an overworking of ambition in their creative engine, which then puts them in positions of they ain't got enough time, they ain't
mm,
got enough energy, and all they know is what's next, right?
yeah, yeah,
So you ain't got to do it all today by you acknowledging the need for rest, for relaxation, um, to take the pressure off yourself, to have to get everything done and take care of everybody. You ain't got to do all that shit today. And the more women are able to rest, we want to talk about resting and in their femininity. A lot of that don't got shit to do with how they dress or the sister circles. It's in taking your ass to bed on time. It's in taking a 15-minute nap. It's in saying, you know what, I've exhausted all my energetic points for today. It don't matter what else don't get done or the consequences of that. I ain't doing shit else, right?
Yeah.
That will start to open up those compartments of their energy, their soul, and their heart that will allow them or afford them the ability to see us in more empathetic, compassionate, um, diverse ways. So yeah, that would be my two messages I would write on the ladies' walk.
All right. I heard that. That's what's up, brother.
Yep.
Well, the conversation was insightful. I got to
Yeah.
know on the
Only
deep.
round one. We got to
Yeah,
do
there we
it.
go. Round one for
Yeah.
sure, brother. Yeah, we definitely gonna come back. So let the people know how they can find you, all your handles and what have you.
Yeah. And let me give you your flowers too, bro. We kind of connected with probably last year on
Yep, yep.
social media. And it's two main brothers in my life. Both of y'all are new acquisitions for me, as far as brotherhood and friendship.
Indeed.
But you and my brother Mike, he's known as Sharpshoot Media. He's one of our photographers.
Okay.
Y'all are extremely consistent and just checking on me, bro. You know what I'm saying? Y'all don't be wanting shit. A lot of the calls and the texts I get, and I'm cool with that. I know my role in this life, so I'm not complaining when I say this. But
Yeah.
it's usually somebody needing something from me, especially
Yeah.
when it comes to my brothers. They going through shit. 9 out of 10 times, y'all just like, yo, I'm just checking on you. You good? I'm thinking y'all gonna need something. I'm trying to
Yeah,
come. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Like, nah, bro, I'm just
yeah,
checking on you. I'm just making sure you good. So that means a lot to me, bro. In ways I may not always have the wherewithal or the time to just say to you. So I just want to say, being a being, man to man, black man to black man, thank you for all of those moments you checked on me. And then I'm a fan of yours, yo. Your artistry, your business acumen, your humor. You know what I'm saying? I even appreciate what is it? The handsome privilege
yeah,
videos and all that.
yeah.
Bro, I be
For sure,
tapped into
for sure.
everything you do, and not just because it's obligatory, because you do it for me. I
Yeah,
see you, bro. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to take that time to give you your flowers as well. If y'all watching this, please go support my brother. If y'all my audience, make sure y'all discover who he is. The music is fire. His heart is beautiful. His mind is beautiful. So I had to give you your flowers back.
thank
Um,
you, brother. I
yeah,
appreciate that,
bro. Yeah, yeah. I love you, bro. You know what I'm
man. I
saying?
love you. Look, I
We
love
ain't
you
able to
back
get up in person yet. This is like our first real engagement outside of just text, but
for
just from
sure,
the
brother.
energy of the text, I know
Yeah,
we go way back, multiple life cycles. So I look forward to whenever we do get up in the flesh. But I definitely love you.
yeah,
Um,
for sure,
and,
brother.
and then as far as how they can get in contact with me, my main platforms is Facebook. I just hit 100,000 followers on Facebook today. I was
Hey,
off Facebook for years, bro. And Spirit told me last year, nigga, start going back over there. I was at like 30,000 followers last year. That
yeah,
shit skyrocketed. So I'm on Facebook. I'm Dr.
yeah.
Diggler over there, DOXDIGGLA, my former artist name. The only reason I don't change it because Facebook's still funny with the name shit, and
You
I
got the
don't want my,
last
my
name
shit to
part.
get deleted, right?
Yeah,
So I'm gonna
yeah.
keep that over there, and then on Instagram, Brick BRICK underscore City CITI underscore Buddha BUDDHA on Instagram, and if y'all want to get in contact with me for couples counseling, one-on-one life coaching, y'all can hit me up over there. Me and my wife also do events. We do retreats all around the world. Y'all can hit me up for that. And then, music out. We both got music out. My project is getting completed as I speak, but I got 3 phenomenal singles out right now. I got Everything Is Love out, produced by legendary heat makers. Also produced my first single, Daddy Issues, for the fathers, co-parents, and just people that's going through breakups and heartache. And then I got Airplane Mode that's produced by my brother Vertical Jones. Those are the 3 singles that's out right now. So just look forward to more music coming from your boy as I get back into that. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And yes, y'all, the boy can spit. I done heard
Yeah.
him. I'm a
Thank
fan of the music just as I am a fan of him as an individual. So listen, Docs, thank you, bro. I know you got stuff to go
you. Yeah.
do, what have you, and this won't be the last
Yeah.
conversation. We'll get the next one in, brother.
Yeah, and also I'm eventually gonna get back to the King Cave. That's platform I was doing on Instagram Live, just getting 3 or 4 of my brothers together, have
Yeah,
real talk for men and women to just see us have, barbershop type talk, but on this type of level. I
Indeed.
feel like I'm gonna get back to that this month, so I
Okay,
would love to have you on as one of my panelists for that as
bro.
well.
I'll be honored. Can't wait.
Yeah,
I'm there.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. All
Already,
right,
bro.
love and light. I appreciate y'all. Talk to you soon, bro. All
Already, brother. Peace.
right, peace.